Hi, everyone. We are just going to wait a minute as people join before we get started. But I want to thank everyone for coming to our education webinar, creating a seamless registration process. Again, we will wait just a minute or two before everyone joins or as everyone joins, and then we will go from there. Hi, everyone. We're just going to wait one more minute as people are joining. If you could locate your Q&A box or setting on your Zoom panel and let me know that you can hear me, that would be really great. It is very snowy where I'm at, so if you could give me an update on your weather, that would be perfect. Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started today. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to join. We are hosting we as in Mightycause is hosting an education webinar all about creating a seamless registration process for you and your giving event participants. So without further ado, let's jump in. My name is Dawn. I am the Senior Community Development Manager over here at Mightycause. I have been with Mightycause for a couple of years now, and one of my main roles is to improve upon the giving event product, make our giving event product better for the hosts that are using it, and work with them and the project managers to make the whole experience amazing for the hosts as well as the participating nonprofits. So today's agenda, I'm going to give you a little bit of background about Mightycause since we have a wide range of people on today's webinar. I'm going to go through some registration basics. We're going to talk through the pros and cons of charging for registration. And then we're going to focus some time on questions to consider during your registration. And then after that, we're going to talk through the approval process, what happens after someone registers, and then what happens after the giving event that's tied to registration. So really quick, about Mightycause, we've been serving nonprofits and our partners since about 2006. We are a modern all-in-one platform, and we really work hard to enhance and improve upon our giving event product. We work really hard too to offer an automated solution, and hosts that utilize Mightycause get a dedicated project manager that really keeps them on track and tries to take the load off of them with the technology piece. We also provide lots of comprehensive data and analytics. One of our favorite things is data. And we also do migration services to help make transitioning from one platform to another as painless as possible. We have an integrated registration process, which is part of what I'll be talking about today. And then, we have lots of other features with our giving events, like a super customizable search. We have an exclusive Give Again feature that we love it when hosts are able to take advantage of that, as well as some other features like tips and just, a really easy way for our hosts to get, in the site and update it on their own, or, utilizing their project manager to do that for them. So some of our customers we work with Give Minnesota. We work with the Rock family of companies, also known as Quicken Loans. We work with USA Today network. We recently were joined by the Sacramento Region Community Foundation, as well as MIT. So as you can see, a wide range of partners, community foundations, universities, businesses. So, wide range of types as well as sizes. We have, giving days that earn $32 million during their giving day. And then we have giving days that, might do 30 to 50,000. So wide range. We love them all. And working with giving events is one of our favorite things. So registration basics. So, one of the key pieces when, managing your giving day is the registration piece. There's obviously lots of things that go into creating and managing and putting on a giving event. And as a host, you know very well what all of those things are. And every host has their own pieces that might be a little more tricky for them. But one of the things that is key to, running a successful giving day, as well as the first piece of what your potential participants might see with your giving day, is registration. It's one of those things that, it's kind of like your first impression for your giving event. People come to the site, potential users come to the site, they see the modern interface, they see, information about it, the different menu items, and then, making sure that they can access and view where to register is definitely important. And then, the question is, like, when does registration make sense for me? So getting organizations to come on and fill out a registration form, they're busy, you're busy. So making sure that you make that registration piece as seamless as possible for them while they give you their time is really important. So, registration really makes sense when you need to get a feel for how many organizations are participating. So, some giving events might have registration just for, gauging interest. They might not need a lot of information from the organizations, but they want to know, how many organizations can I expect to participate in my giving event? Obviously, all giving events will have organizations that sign up and might not participate, but, you're getting their contact information when they sign up. So at the very least, you're able to contact them after the giving event. You're able to reach out to them. You're able to get them to sign up for your, newsletter that you put out, or, get them to interact with your community foundation a little more by that first introduction of registration. Another piece when registration makes sense is when you need to gather some intel. So when you need to find out information from these nonprofits, registration is an excellent way for you to be able to do that. So by coming to the site, they're giving you their undivided attention for, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, however long your registration form is. But this is a great time for you to be able to ask them questions that you've been wanting to know, but, maybe you send out a survey to your nonprofits that you have relationships to, but only a couple of them get back to you. Registration with your giving event is the perfect place to be able to ask exactly what you need just for your giving event, or throw in a couple questions that you might need to know for some other aspect of what you do on a day-to-day basis to make it worthwhile for your nonprofits to have a partnership with you. So registration is a perfect place for you to be able to gather some intel on the participating nonprofits that come to the site and fill out your form. Another, time when registration makes sense is when, you need to enhance your event through custom search filters or segmented prizes. So a lot of giving events will use their registration form to be able to essentially inform their search for when donors come to the site and want to try and find a nonprofit or start a cart. Your registration form is going to be a great place for you to be able to inform those search filters. So if you want donors to be able to come to your search and say, I really want to donate to, 5 really small nonprofits, then you can have a question within your registration that focuses on, let's say, organization budget. And then that can inform a search filter so that when donors come to your giving event site, they can say, oh, here's a filter. I want to look for small organizations. And then they can click that filter in the search, and all of the organizations that have, determined themselves to be small, depending on your qualifications, will show up in that search. And then the donor can easily pick and choose which organizations they want to donate to. And then some of the giving events that we work with also utilize registration to be able to segment their prizes. A lot of giving events have incentives on their giving day, leaderboards, golden tickets, a varying range of prizes. And registration is a great way for you to gather information to be able to segment out prizes. So let's say that you want to have prizes based on, small, medium, and large organizations that are participating, or even if you wanted to do, different power hours or golden tickets based off of segmented prizes, then registration is a great way for you to be able to kind of get that information and to help you inform your prize breakdown as you're in your planning process. Another key registration basic item that you need and have to consider is, when registration ends. So this is a big question that a lot of giving event hosts that come to us ask, how long should my registration be open? So really, the short answer is it's up to you. But, some key things to consider as you're, going through and trying to figure out when, how long should I keep my registration open? When should it end? How long should it end ahead of my, the start of my giving event? Some things to consider is really messaging and your bandwidth. The longer that you keep registration open, the longer that you'll need to message about it and remind people to sign up. So, when you're sitting down and kind of thinking through your timeline, and with Mightycause, your project manager helps you figure out that kind of stuff. Figuring out your messaging, like how often do you want to reach out to the organizations to remind them that the registration is open? How long, like what's their attention span with that? Does it matter for, the ones that you work with? Does it matter if you have a little reminder in your email that you send out to them every couple of weeks? Like, don't forget to register, don't forget to register. When will they get tired of hearing about it? And then, your bandwidth. Do you have time to email them every week, every couple of weeks, for months to say, hey, don't forget to sign up for registration? So to really take into consideration that piece, because it's really going to be key. Mightycause, on Mightycause, we can have your registration open for months if you want, but it's the relationship that you build with the nonprofits that are participating, you don't necessarily want to sound like a broken record. So keeping in mind how long you're willing to message about it, how long you think your organizations are willing to hear about it, and then your bandwidth, of course. What all else are you doing to improve your community foundation, improve the other things that you're working on, adding those key pieces in there as well. Short versus long registration timeframe. So there are, some giving events that have their registration open for 2 weeks, and that's it. And then there are others that that we've worked with that have had their registration open for 6 months. So it really depends on what, you can handle. And then it also depends on, how big are you as an organization? So are you a very large giving day? Are you, a national giving day? Are you a small regional giving day? So those are the kind of questions that you want to ask as well, because that's kind of going to determine the length of time it's open anyway. So, let's say you're a national giving event. So obviously you'll want to keep your registration open for a longer time frame than say a small regional giving event might, because it takes a little while for word of mouth, your, any marketing that you're doing to promote your giving day. It's going to take a little while to spread the word and get that out there. If you're doing any paid posts or anything like that to really spread the word, you'll want to keep your registration open for longer, as opposed to maybe a smaller regional giving event that they have direct access to the 100 nonprofits who are in partnership with them, and who are getting their regular emails and things like that. So they can afford to have a shorter time frame on registration. So keeping those things in mind, how big are you, your messaging and bandwidth, and all that stuff will help you determine a good length of time. Another thing to consider is if you have organizations that have participated, like let's say that you're a giving event that has run for many years in a row. If you have organizations that, at the beginning of the year say, I'm ready to register, I know I'm going to be participating in it, it's on my fundraising calendar, maybe then, you can say, okay, let's open registration as soon as possible. And then, just have it open. So if organizations, they think about it and want to go to your giving day site and go ahead and start registration and get that part over with, that's one thing off their plate, and you've given them the opportunity to do that. And then, maybe for you think, okay, I'm going to actually start messaging about it just a month before it closes. So anyone who hasn't thought about it, or, I need to put it in front of them, or whatever, then you can say, I'm going to just be talking to them about it for a month. And that way you give people a month to register, and then, have it close after that. Now, the realities of a registration deadline. So, a deadline is a deadline, right? But a lot of times the vast majority of nonprofits will register for the giving day the day before it closes or the day it closes. So you're going to probably see the most amount of registrations within that week of it closing. And, maybe because that ahead of time, you take the time to write the messaging and just put out more messaging, maybe the week of, or you decide, listen, I know most people are going to be registering the week before it closes. But I really, really want to close my registration, like really close it on the day that I say. So maybe you decide, okay, 2 weeks ahead of time, I'm going to be doing heavy messaging to say, get your applications in before the deadline. And, maybe you provide an incentive along with that, whatever you have time and capabilities for. But we all know that the vast majority of people are going to be actually registering the week before the deadline for registration. And then the other thing to just be aware of and understand and have a game plan for is post-deadline organizations that want to register. What are you going to do with those organizations? Are you going to have a hard stop? Are you going to say, I'm sorry, the cutoff was this date, just no? Are you going to have kind of a, you soft close registration where, maybe you take it off your site, but you keep the backend link live. So, anyone who happens to come to you after the registration deadline has hit, you can say, sure, you have 2 days to register before we actually close registration. Here's the direct link, go ahead and do it. So some things to consider. Those are definitely things that you can talk over with your project manager. One of the things I mentioned before, we really love data. One of the things that we like to do is, kind of see how many people applied to your registration at different time frames. And so that way you're able to make educated decisions on, okay, last year, I know 30 people registered the week of, and then, you can see with each week, how many people registered. So if you're, wanting to open it 4 months before your giving event, and you're realizing, nobody's really registering until a month and a half out, maybe I just wait to open registration and start messaging about it until it gets closer to that time frame when people actually start paying attention to it, because it's closer to the date when the deadline is. So a couple things to consider, and there's no right answer, but keeping those pieces in on top of mind, and then understanding, if for example, if you have run a giving day in the past, kind of rethinking, okay, what have I done in the past? Has this been good? Has it been helpful? Has it been useful? Kind of looking at that, just, the starting registration, keeping it open, how much you communicated about it, that's all part of the process of getting organizations registered. And so that's definitely something that you'll want to consider as you, kind of map out your plan for this year's giving event. Charging for registration. So this is definitely, kind of one of those take it or leave it type topics, right? So some giving event hosts always charge for registration. They've been charging for registration for, years and years and years. And then the other side of it is there are lots and lots of giving events that do not charge for registration. The giving event opportunity is their gift to their nonprofit participants, to be able to have a engagement piece and incentives that go along with that, that they provide to their community. So, there's definitely pros and cons for charging for registration, but, why charge, and should I do it? If you've, never charged before, then it might not, and you're totally fine, then, it might not be, you might not need to charge for registration, which is great. But, some things to ask yourself. So, would I be able to recoup enough of my costs from a registration fee to make it worth it? Would charging a registration fee create more ill will than be helpful to our program? And then, how many organizations would need to apply before a registration fee would be beneficial? So, those are some questions to ask yourself. If you, have already been running a giving event and have not been charging, then, would it be worth it? Sometimes people charge for registration because they need to recoup their own costs. So first question, would you be able to do that? Would the registration fee make it worth it? We're going to, in a little bit, we'll talk about, maybe amounts and things like that. But, for you, think about your individual giving event. Would you get more pushback from organizations if they've never had to pay a fee before? And, for some of you, the answer is like, yes, definitely. I don't need to think about this at all. Totally fine. So, but as you all know, running a giving event, it takes time, it takes energy, and, there's costs associated with it, whether it's, whether or not you're, wanting to compensate for your own time, or, maybe you utilize the registration fee for like a marketing budget. There's different ways to think about it. And, the nonprofits might, depending on how you format it, they might understand. But, kind of asking yourself those questions at the beginning. Would this be worth it to me? Would I, would having people pay be like, would I get enough out of it to be able to justify it? So, think about your specific giving event and think about, what does this look like for me? And then that will help you kind of format and structure, whether or not you should charge, or if it would be more of a pain than, doing it. Now, if you do choose to charge, Mightycause has an integrated registration fee system. So as people go through your registration process, then they can click pay and submit. And then it pops up this pay registration fee. So, you set up a Stripe account, the registration fee gets processed through Stripe. It's all integrated within the registration system. And then that way you're able to see on your end, who's paid, how much they've paid, and all that good stuff. So you can keep track of everything. Everything's all in one place for you to be able to reference and then, go on about your day. If you do choose to register or to charge for registration, there's different types of fees that you can charge. So one option is a flat fee. So one fee for everyone, regardless of size, regardless of whatever, let's say it's $25 flat for everyone that applies. The other option is a tiered fee. So you can do fees based off different aspects of, let's say you have a registration question based off of budget. You can do a registration fee based off of, whatever their answer is. So the system will go ahead and understand that, okay, if somebody answers that they have a budget between $0 and $50,000, they're going to get charged a $10 registration fee or a $25 registration fee, whatever you set up with your project manager ahead of time. And then the system also knows, okay, I have an organization that answered that they have a $5 million budget. So, I know the system knows, charge them, $100 registration fee. So you can set up different types of fees based off of different, if you have a registration question that is tied to that, then you're able to do that as well. Now, most of the, unless like usually if it's if a giving event, if they have a flat fee for their registration, it's going to be a lower flat fee. Others have tiered fees that range from small to large. So it's usually based off of budget size for those tiered fees. But the system makes it really easy. If you do choose to charge, the system makes it really easy to get that set up and to be able to manage that through your giving event site. The other thing to keep in mind is the transparency in the registration fee. Organizations that do register with your giving event are going to want to know, what is this being used for, especially if you've never charged registration fee before. And, they, a lot of times, they will understand, your costs, your the admin things have maybe they've changed on your end, letting them know and being transparent about why you are now charging a registration fee, or, just if you've been charging a registration fee, just giving them more access and visibility into what that registration fee goes towards. That goes a long way with the nonprofits who are participating. It builds trust, it builds relationship so that they know, okay, my registration fee is going towards marketing for the giving event, or my registration fee is going towards, let's say you use the registration fee towards, the prize pool or, a bonus pool or something. Or, my registration fee is allowing this opportunity for my organization because it covers admin costs for the registration, or for the giving event. So thinking through, okay, flat fee versus tiered fee, and then keeping it transparent for the organizations that are participating. So questions to consider. This is probably more of the meat of the webinar, but as you're, going through and kind of refreshing yourself on your registration process, thinking through, can I do anything differently? What should I do differently? What were the pain points in my registration last year for my giving event? Thinking through everything that you have done in the past. The first thing to know is, your registration goals. So determine those registration goals, and then that way you can go from there. So knowing that, okay, my goal is to, I need to collect these couple of pieces of information during my registration process. So, what information do I need to know from my registrants? Do I need to know the county that they serve? Do I need to know their operating budget? And the next question, am I collecting information for potential prizes for the search? What kind of information in there do I need to collect in order to, serve these other areas of my giving event? Another piece to consider is, with your goals, are you, wanting to collect other information that doesn't have to do with your giving day outside of your registration? Like I said at the beginning, this registration time is undivided attention from these organizations that like for your giving event. This is like besides the actual giving day and maybe like the day leading up to it, this is like the one time that the organizations sit down, you have their undivided attention, and you can ask them whatever you want to get the information that you need. So this is a great opportunity if you have other, if you have other programs, or one of your goals is to collect information to update your year-round portal offerings in terms of, let's say you have a community hub where people come and see the nonprofits in your community. This is a great place to ask them a couple questions. So obviously that goes into my next question. How many questions is too many? So you obviously don't want to be, combining all questions from all your different programs into your registration for your giving day, but maybe asking like one or two key questions that, could translate over into multiple programs, then, that might be the best route to go. And, it could be as simple as, are you interested in the community foundation contacting you about X, Y, and Z program? So you could ask that. And then, from the organizations that say yes, you can go ahead and add them to, the email list for whatever program, or, are you interested in additional grant opportunities from XYZ Community Foundation? And then that way you have that information after the giving day is over, and can then, kind of go from there. And then, number 4, what information can be collected through the system? So essentially, one of, our host favorite things about Mightycause is that like they don't have to worry about checking for nonprofit statuses or, the basic information on a nonprofit. So one of the really cool things about Mightycause too is that we're integrated with the IRS. And so we do monthly audits to check nonprofit statuses on a regular basis. So, our direct connection tells us, oh, these nonprofits are no longer have their statuses, or, it just confirms these nonprofits are still good. So that's one thing that the hosts don't ever have to worry about, is a nonprofit status. And then when organizations go to the giving day to register, all they do is search for their organization name using the name or the EIN. And then that's, those are like 3 or 4 less questions that you have to ask in your registration to collect information from these organizations that are applying to register. So when you're putting together your registration, or when you're reviewing your registration, from previous years, those are questions that you can cut out. If, let's say you're on, you use a different service and it doesn't do any of those things, and you have to say, okay, what's your organization name? Obviously, when people write down things and just do text boxes, there's lots of room for human error. And so this is a great way to kind of cut down on the questions and just get, just the information that you need to collect from your organizations to make it the best experience for them. And then also, if you want to enhance, maybe some other programs that you're utilizing outside of your giving day. And then another item to, consider is what information can belong on an organization's profile page versus what information do you need. There are, one of the examples is the Sacramento Region Community Foundation. They have a very extensive, they have a very extensive registration form, but it was even more extensive before they moved to Mightycause. So Mightycause was able to chop off, the first, portion of questions, because we check the nonprofit statuses. We have all that information already in our system. And then they use a lot of their questions for determining grants and things like that. So a lot of their questions don't have anything to do with the giving day, which, makes their registration very lengthy, and organizations have to dedicate a good amount of time to it. Now, if, they've been doing that for quite a while, so their organizations are used to it. But, one of the things that we were able to do for them was cut out another portion because of questions that they asked, because a lot of the items that they wanted to know could be solved through the organization's profile pages. So, organization profile pages on Mightycause, during the registration process in Mightycause, you don't have to ask them for their logo. You don't have to ask them for their mission statement. All of those things can be solved through the profile. So you can keep your registration, as short as you want, because, as I mentioned, this is the time for you to have their dedicated attention. And so, but you also don't want to like take too much advantage of that, because if it's too long and tedious, there's more of a barrier for them to not finish the registration process. So, keeping all that in mind. And then, that's one of the things where you're thinking through your registration goals as you're communicating to nonprofits that registration is open. If you want to use your registration for your giving day as, something else as well, like the Sacramento Region Community Foundation uses theirs to inform a lot of their grant processes. That's something that you can let your organizations know ahead of time. Listen, we want to do even more for you all outside of the giving day. And so when you complete this registration, there's going to be a couple questions that you're going to be answering. So it might take you longer than it has in the past, because we're trying to increase our partnership with you outside of, for the rest of the year. So letting them know ahead of time that, hey, you're going to want to sit down and set aside 15 minutes for this, 30 minutes for this to, answer questions, then that's a really great thing to do as well. And then also, going through your registration process with your Mightycause project manager, they can definitely inform you on, here's what we've seen in the past, here's what others do. That way you can make sure that you're keeping your registration in line with, what others around the country, or, those in kind of the same size as you are doing as well. Then that way, if an organization, that's participated in the past, hasn't signed up yet, and they say, listen, like this registration, I'm not sure about it, then, that's kind of information that you can give them too, along with letting them know, here are our goals for registration. Here's what we want to do outside of our giving event with you to, increase your own donor base, increase your partnership with them, and all that good stuff. So you've gotten people to register. They're sitting in your pending. Now what? So as you're working with your Mightycause project manager to build the registration for your giving event, you can go through the registration approval process. So essentially, on Mightycause, you get 3 options for approving registrants, and they're totally based on your bandwidth and your desire for how much you want to manage or be in charge of the approval process. So the first way that you can approve is manually. So, essentially what that means is you go in and you review all of the application answers that have been given, and then you can approve or deny from there. So that's, option 1. And then option 2, approve conditionally. So this is one of the really cool ways that Mightycause can kind of integrate with the organization's profile pages and what you want to do with that. So you can have the system approve automatically, but based on certain conditions. So really, you can once you launch registration, you can sit back and watch it go. And then, either be amazed or, go and decide, okay, here's my marketing strategy for the rest of, this month. Conditional approval, you can have your organizations be approved after you've made sure they've uploaded a logo, filled out certain pieces of their profile. There's a lot of different aspects that you can conditionally approve organizations on. And again, that's why your goals are so important, to understand those for your registration ahead of time. And that way, okay, one of my biggest concerns is making sure that my giving event page and the organizations associated with it have the basic information. They've got a mission statement, they've got a logo, they've got a banner. That's what I care about. Everyone cares about different things. So we have a very wide variety of items that you can, decide to conditionally approve them on. But, let's say that you're one of the giving events that just want their organizations to have the basic stuff filled out. We can make sure that organizations, when they register, they get a to-do list, they get information that says, you'll be approved based on X, Y, and Z. So then they go in to their profiles, they can click on the to-do list. It will bring them directly to those spaces that you've determined ahead of time within their accounts so that they can fill those out, be done with it. And then after they've got them done, the system will recognize it and automatically approve them. So you don't have to do anything but determine which items do I care about the most to conditionally approve. The last approval process method is approving automatically. So, no real explanation needed there, but essentially, if you have auto approval on, then an organization applies, and within 24 hours, the system automatically pushes them through as approved. They get a notification email that says, hey, you're approved, like, way to go, you're awesome, can't wait to see you. And you can kind of go from there. So depending on what your bandwidth is, depending on what you care about and what your registration goals are, you can decide which approval process will work best for you. So after registration, you've got your approval process in place. You've got your registration questions. You've determined what those are. What happens next? So after registration, there's a series of notification emails that go out to organizations that have registered to participate in your giving day. And they're all customizable by you. So you can, customize the confirmation email that says, hey, you've registered. And then, you can provide them with next steps in that email. There's also an approved email and a declined email that you're able to customize or, kind of ask your project manager to customize. And then, that way you can funnel organizations through a process to the best of your abilities to get them started on next steps, let them know what's up, give them important dates, direct them to the toolkit, have them sign up for webinars. There's tons of things that you could ask them to do. Our suggestion is always keep it as simple as possible, just because, organizations have very limited mental bandwidth to spend. So you want to keep it simple, let them know, at the most 3, but we recommend 1 or 2 next steps to say, hey, you're approved. That's awesome. Do these 2 things to get started in planning for your for the giving day. And maybe it's signing up for any trainings that you're doing, whether it be on Zoom, if you have in-person trainings at this point, just letting them know what's going on so that they can determine their best course of action for planning, depending on what their bandwidth is like and what their goals are for the giving day. After registration as well, and before, really, the organizations have access to a registration status within their account for your giving day on Mightycause. So you can see on the top image that your organization is registered for name of the giving day, and that way they can see right in their accounts if registration's open, if they haven't applied at all yet. They can see if their registration's pending. They can see if they're approved, or if they've been declined. So the organizations can see within their accounts if where they stand, and then can determine their own next steps from there. And then, of course, our support team is happy to help as well. If any organizations aren't sure if they're registered yet or have, are wondering when registration is going to open, then our support team is here to support you and them all year round. And then another aspect to consider for after registration is maybe an onboarding email series. So, you can see in your participant management screen in Mightycause, everyone that's registered, everyone, maybe they're pending, but everyone that's been approved. So you can then either download the list of all the admins associated with those organizations that are participating, so you can get all their email addresses. Within your participant management, you can also email individual organizations directly to let them know, if you have a certain question for one or two of them, or if you, want, if you can, because you can see right in your participant management screen, who's completed what in terms of their, filling out their profiles and, the planning associated with it that you have access to with Mightycause. So you can kind of encourage them right within your participant management screen. And, that information can also inform maybe an onboarding email series. So, if you want them to know, listen, like, I can see that 50% of the organizations that have applied or registered for my giving day haven't even uploaded a logo yet. I'm probably going to need to send out some communication to everyone with just like basic stuff. Here's how to edit your profile, or resend out the recorded training webinar that has everything to do with customizing their profiles. So that's a great place for you to be able to kind of see what's going on, and then determine your next steps from there in terms of the onboarding. And then it's also something that you can talk with your project manager about. Kind of say, listen, I want to be talking with my organizations. Here's my messaging plan. The project managers are happy to be able to kind of review that messaging plan with you, and then inform you on what they've seen others do, and then what they've seen happen from those. So if you want to spend you open registration 2 months before, spend the first 2 weeks reminding people to register. The next 2 weeks after that, focusing on customizing the profile. And the next 2 weeks after that, focusing on, really starting marketing strategy and everything. And then go from there. Your project manager will be happy to help you kind of determine those next steps. And then, what your messaging strategy and plan will be, depending again on what your goals are, and then what kind of, bandwidth the organizations have too. So then after your giving event, what happens? So after your giving event, with regards to registration, like I said at the beginning, registration is almost like your first impression that you're giving the organizations when they come to your giving event after they're interested. And so you want to make sure that you're, reviewing it on a yearly basis to make sure, am I collecting all the information that I need? Am I collecting information I don't need anymore? Like maybe, maybe a year ago you wanted to know a question, and then this year you don't need to know about that. And a good example might be COVID. Like, for example, in 2020, you wanted to know how many organizations have COVID initiatives so that it could inform your search. You can, that way donors could specifically search for organizations that were doing stuff related to COVID. And then this year, maybe that's not something that you want to focus on anymore. Maybe you have another thing that you want to focus on or ask them in the registration process. So, the first step is, you're doing it now. You're reviewing your registration process and making sure that, everything that you're asking has a purpose. So taking the time after your giving event, after you've maybe gone on a vacation to de-stress from it all, taking the time to review your registration process on a yearly basis to make sure that you're asking exactly what you need to is definitely step one. And then, for those of you who are new, is registration necessary after year one? So it kind of goes back to goals. So, are you wanting people to register for prize segmentation? Do you want to collect certain information? There are some giving events who don't have organizations register. They just assume that they're participating, and then registration is only necessary for brand new organizations coming to participate in the giving day. So, just depending on what's right for you, what you feel is necessary, kind of judging from there. If you've always done registration, then, keep on keeping on, but, maybe you kind of look at it and say, hey, I have, really deep roots and relationships with all of these organizations that have participated in my giving day for the last many years. Is registration necessary, or would I be perfectly fine with a note saying, hey, I'm participating, or something like that? So, obviously determining what's best for you based on your goals, what kind of information you want to collect, will answer that question for you. Another thing that to consider doing after your giving event is debriefing with participants on the processes of registration. And others. So I would definitely kind of pick out a couple organizations to connect with after the giving event. One thing that Mightycause likes to do is send a survey to the participants, that you've determined, but send a survey to the participants to ask them, what their experience was. But one thing that we always recommend is the host kind of connecting with one or two or a handful of participants of varying levels, either size or how much they raised, how many prizes they won, connecting with them after the giving event to be able to say, how was it for you? Do you have any recommendations for next year? Because we all know that, once the giving day is over, it's hard to get organizations' attention, because they've moved on. As soon as the giving day is done, they're on to their next, the next fundraising event on their calendar. And so you want to maybe give them a heads up ahead of time to say, listen, I'm going to want your feedback, your experience feedback after this event is over. So put a call on your calendar now for either a little forum that you put together with, a handful of nonprofits that participated, but really kind of digging in and deep diving into how was their experience? How can you, improve on the next year? And so forth. And with Mightycause, you get a debrief call with the project manager after the giving event. So that's knowing when that is scheduled is a great opportunity for you to remember and act on kind of connecting with a couple nonprofits, albeit just over the phone. Give them a call one day soon after the giving event and say, hey, I have 3 questions I want to ask you. Is now a good time? And that way, you can get more personal anecdotes from organizations on their experiences, and then maybe get more tangible feedback. Because if they're talking with you and they're giving you their time, they're likely to say more than if they got an email from you generically saying, can you give us your feedback? It's the same as what you might tell them with donors. You want to they're recommended to go out to their donor base and kind of focus on a single piece of their cause, whether if they're an animal shelter, whether it be one dog who needs help, or medical bills or something. That way donors can connect with the this one individual piece, as opposed to being overwhelmed by the whole animal shelter. You're kind of going about it with the same psychology. So kind of asking one nonprofit to focus on okay, hey, I'm asking you specifically, not just generically as a group. I'm asking you specifically, can you give me feedback on this specific thing? They're more likely to give you more valuable feedback because you've contacted them directly than if you did it generically. And then, of course, sending out next year's event date. So you'll want to let them know that here's next year's event date. Set it on your calendars. Put it in your books. Write it on your foreheads. This is when next year's event date is going to be. That way they can put it on their calendars. As I'm sure most of us know, nonprofits have, and really everyone has a hard time pivoting. And so you'll want to make sure that you get that information out to them as soon as possible. How your Mightycause project manager can help. One of the things that is really awesome about Mightycause is that, on your giving event site, you can edit it at any time. It's not locked in to a certain view or text or whatever. So if you want the site after the giving day is over to say, hey, this is when the next giving day can be, this is what you can plan on, then that's something that you could do. If anything changes, if you have additional information that you want to share out to people, then you can always go in and update that site to say, hey, now we have this sign up form. If you're interested in the giving event next year, click here to sign up to be informed on next steps. Your project manager is happy to help keep you on task if you have goals, whatever your goals are for your event, for your registration. for next year's messaging. Your project manager is there to kind of be your right-hand man, to keep the project moving, really manage and help you with the technical side of it, so that your focus is on recruiting organizations to register, and then marketing out to them, trainings and things like that your project manager can help with as well. So really taking advantage of your project manager to kind of take that burden off of you is one of the things that we like doing best. And helping out with kind of the information on here's what you can do to start preparing for next year is something that they can help with that as well. A couple examples of just the wide range of registrations that one might see. So Georgia Gives is one of our partners, and they are a statewide giving day on Giving Tuesday. They are their giving event allows anyone in the state of Georgia to participate. But they recommend registration just for their prize segmentation. So they have, a really comprehensive registration that allows them to be able to segment organizations based on certain prizes, especially based on what their sponsors, because some sponsors only want to support organizations that have certain causes. And so they're able to ask specific questions during registration to be able to segment those organizations out and keep in line with what their sponsors are looking for. But their registration is solely based on prize segmentation, and really anyone in the state of Georgia is allowed, obviously, a 501c3 or on the site is able to participate in Georgia Gives, access all their resources, but registration is only required if they want to have access to those monetary incentives. Another example is A Community Thrives, which is part of the USA Today network. The A Community Thrives Challenge, they do a full grant application. They have no fee, and they don't care how complete an organization's page is. So an organization can come in and they don't have to fill out their page at all if they don't want to. It's obviously not recommended, but they can do the bare minimum with the technology side of it. Their page still looks okay, even if it's not really customized. But the A Community Thrives Challenge really utilizes their registration as essentially a grant application. There's tons of questions on there because they have two parts to their giving event. There's the fundraising aspect of it, which happens on Mightycause, and then there's the grant piece of it, which they have merged into the Mightycause piece by asking those questions during registration, because they understand that this is when we're going to be able to get these organizations full undivided attention. So we're going to ask everything that we need to know up front, and then go from there. And the organizations have parameters around the fundraising, but then after the fundraising piece of it is over, the staff who works on A Community Thrives is able to go through those registration questions that the organizations answered originally, and then choose grant winners from among those as well. So there's kind of two parts to that one. And then lastly, as an example, Sacramento Region Community Foundation does their big day of giving. So with them, they do have a fee. It is based on organization budget. So it's a tiered fee. And they have a very comprehensive list of requirements that an organization has to complete and get reviewed before they're approved. And so one way that they were able to simplify their registration through Mightycause was using our conditional completeness approval process. So they were able to ask, the questions that they needed to ask in the kind of written portion of the registration. And then the other half of registration questions that they used to ask in their previous provider was, stuff that they could solve through the profile for the organization. So they were able to go through and say, okay, I want to ask them this, I want to ask them that, but it can be solved through the profile. So really it's just, they need to fill these pieces out. So they have a much more comprehensive and lengthy registration process, but they're able to collect a lot more information, basically because their registration for their giving day encompasses more than just the giving day. So they kind of do, collecting all this information for their other programs that they utilize throughout the year, but they're able to do it all in one place because, again, this is when they get the organization's undivided attention, and they're sitting down, they're ready to spend some time on this and answer these questions. So really wide range of types of registration out there. If you're able to keep it simple, definitely keep it simple, because, again, organizations there's a lot of stuff that they're doing. They have a lot of things that they're trying to think about. They're being pulled in lots of different directions. And so you want to make your registration as seamless as possible, dependent on what your goals are. So first thing that you'll want to do is just check out your goals, see what those are, and then kind of go from there. And your Mightycause project manager can definitely help figure that out with you as you, work through what your goals are. So thank you so much, everyone. I know we're out of time. Thank you so much for attending our education webinar today, all about creating a seamless registration process. If you have, I know we don't have any time for questions, but if you have any questions at all, please feel free to email me. My email is dawn@mightycause.com, DAWN @mightycause.com. And again, thank you so much for your time today.